It's now 6 o'clock. I will call the special meeting of the City Council to order to fill the vacancy for Ward 1. Welcome to everybody that has come out tonight, and thank you to the 4 candidates that have applied for the vacancy. I want to remind everybody that this is a special meeting of the City Council. The public is welcome to observe, but they will not be participating in tonight's meeting. The policy being used tonight is the same procedure that was previously used in July of 1991, November 2001, and June of 2011. For tonight's interviews, each candidate will answer a series of 10 questions. All candidates will be asked the same questions in the same order as the other candidates. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. If the response does not require 2 minutes, the council will proceed to the next interview question. The candidate interview order will be drawn at random. Candidates will not be permitted to have electronics while they are in the candidate waiting area or during the interview process. Electronics will be returned to each candidate at the conclusion of their interview. We will go ahead and draw the candidates now. They're being drawn at random. Our first interview of the evening will be Mr. Stephen Wallace. Second will be Miss Maria Gonzalez-Jackson. Third will be Miss Calandra Young. And fourth, by process of elimination, is Adrian Simmons. Candidates, if you could come up to Ms. Green to turn in your electronics, Ms. Edwards will then escort you to the candidate waiting area. Where are you going first? That's fine. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Wallace, if you could have a seat at the front table.
Thank you.
Once the candidates are out of the room, we will start this evening's questions with Mr. Mills. A reminder, you have 2 minutes. The clock is in the front of the room. You'll be able to monitor your time. Yeah. We're good.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Thanks.
Good evening, Mr. Wallace. Good evening, everyone. First question will be, why have you applied for the Ward 1 vacancy?
I've applied for the Ward 1 vacancy for the same reasons that I ran last year. So lived here in Laurel for over a decade, moved here in 2010. My wife and my 6 kids live here, and this is where we've made our lives. Right? We're dedicated and involved members at St. Mary of the Mills. I work with Tom Downs as an estate planning attorney on Main Street. That's where I am every day. Walk down out of my house down to the office. It's a tough commute, right? About 2 blocks. When we go out to restaurants on Main Street. When we're around, we're in parks in the city. This is where we want to live. This is where we want to be for the long term. And I think the blessings that I've received over time in education as an attorney, in experience as a nonprofit executive, have prepared me well to serve all the different kinds of people who are here in Laurel. So I want to give those gifts back, right? That's why I ran last fall alongside each of you. That's why I'm running, if we want to call it running. I'm applying now for this position as well. So I'd like to see the gifts that I've given help this council. The council is a group. The council has to work as a team, right? We have to respect each other. We have to be cordial with each other when we disagree and when we agree. I think those are gifts that I have in being generous with other folks, in working towards common goals, and inspiring around a mission. That's something that gets me excited. That's something that I want to be part of. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
Mr. Wallace.
And I'm sorry, President Cole, is there a timer that I should...
Is it not running?
It's not running. It's just
All
telling
right.
me the clock.
Let me fix that really quick.
I was trying to do the
apologize for
math,
that.
and I'm not that good at math.
You were right on 2 minutes. I apologize for that.
Bluetooth has disconnected.
Now it should be coming back.
It's 70 degrees outside, so that's good.
70 degrees in the
Oh,
chamber.
in here. Okay, there we go.
All right. Question number 2.
So it's
Can you
still telling me the time.
All right.
Sorry. I don't want to make it. There we go.
All right, it'll come back up. Can you please tell us about your personal and professional background and any relevant experience that you would bring to the city council?
Sure. Grew up in upstate New York, part of a large family. I'm the youngest of 8 and had the experience of watching all those older siblings grow up, and good and bad experiences to learn from. Went to University of Ohio, went to Notre Dame for law school, moved here in 2010. Worked for a commercial litigation firm in Washington, D.C. for about 4 years before leaving the practice of law to lead a nonprofit called Gabriel Network that focuses on helping women and children with maternity housing, with church-based support around pregnancy. So I did that for 7 years. And in the process of doing that, we rebuilt the organization essentially from the ground up. We doubled the number of people that we served. We doubled the budget that we served them with. And we doubled the number of volunteers who were serving them over the course of the 7 years. In doing that, had a lot of experience working with a board, working with community organizations, all kinds of partnerships, right? There were all kinds of things that we weren't going to do ourselves because other people were doing them well. And we wanted to work with those folks, cut the friction down, not be jealous that we had to be the people who provided every service, but instead be focused on the person that we're serving. What do they need? Who's going to give it to them in the best, most respectful way? I think those are gifts that are going to be good on city council. And obviously what city council does, is, as its primary function is write laws. Right? So as an attorney, that's my stock in trade to a large extent. I think that will be helpful as well.
Thank you. Ms. Clark has your next question once she's finished writing her notes.
Thank you. What are your top 3 priorities for the city during your term, and how do you plan to address those priorities?
A very good question. And we won't have a lot of time, right? The term is until just about 1.5 years from now. So time's of the essence. The 3 priorities for me are on making space for flourishing families, right? Making sure Laurel stays as a family-focused community. I think it is now. I think it can be more so in the future. To encourage small businesses and to continue to keep the government of Laurel focused on the people for whom it serves. Right? The government exists to serve. The government doesn't exist for itself. If all of us could, provide our own garbage collection and streets and all these things, then we wouldn't have a government, but we need those things. right? And the government's good insofar as it serves well, and by doing that. So that is something that comes from the elected officials and needs to be consistently brought up and reiterated and reminded to those who serve, not just the officials, but those who serve in government, that that's really why we're here. That's the importance of what we do. So the things that I think of in the immediate future, right, how is that going to be translated into the master plan of the city is important. That's going to be starting very soon. The potential work around Main Street has a big impact on small businesses. And more immediately than that, right, that's a longer term project probably. What can we do in terms of encouraging more housing around the traffic overlays? What can we do in terms of reducing red tape regulation, the time it takes for small businesses to get grants, to open businesses, that kind of stuff? That's within the government's control. I think we can do that better.
Thank you.
Our next question of the evening will be Ms. Johnson.
Mr. Wallace, can you describe a situation where you had to work closely with a team to achieve a common goal? And how did you handle any conflicts or disagreements that arose?
Sure. So the dynamics of a team are really what I spent my 7 years at Gabriel working on. We're a small staff with a really big mission, trying to serve hundreds and then over 1,000 clients every year in very difficult circumstances. So the building of a team to focus not on their own skills, not on what they wanted, but the goal, right? The goal was bigger than any member of the team. So we spent a lot of time building trust, building clarity among the team members as to what our goals were and what our resources were. And then one of the major rules that we had was we were going to disagree in the meetings loudly with each other. And then when a decision was made, we were all going to go with the decision. Okay? So disagreement should be out loud. It should be welcomed. And then when the decision's made, we go with it. Right? That's the decision that the team made. We're going to find out if it succeeds or if it fails. Right? And hopefully fast. So we made lots of decisions. We tried lots of things. And some of them didn't work. And then we came back and we had those previous discussions. We had built sort of the calluses of teamwork where there was no like, I told you so from those situations because the people knew that the next time when we went with their idea, everybody would follow with it, right? And that trust is huge for a team to succeed in anything over time. I am much more interested in the health of an organization in the long term than I am in its specific skill set or how it looks on paper. It's the habits that matter the most.
Mr. Wallace, are there any legislative initiatives or core or code amendments that would be priority to you if appointed for the fill of this position?
The revisions to the election code, I think we all saw in the last election that updates were needed, right? That things were written for 30 or 40 years ago. And like I can't remember what it was. I think like a telegraph is still included in the code. Okay, it's possible that someone is still using a telegraph, but we probably have some updating to do, on technology, just as one, not that important, but illustrative example. There were gaps in who was supposed to decide election questions, which, you can't anticipate everything when you write a law, but we saw conflict in the midst of an election. All right. So nobody saw it before. Fine. It needs to get fixed before the next one. And the time in which to fix that is running out fast, right? 2 years has gone very quickly. I have many small children, and they just keep getting older really fast. So it's obvious to me on a regular basis that I don't keep track of time well. The need for that election reform, I think from a time perspective, is way up there. And I will yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. How familiar are you with the current city budget and fiscal challenges we are facing?
I would say at an executive level, I have read the budget. I have not read every page of the budget. I think that thing is like 300 pages long with lots of tables. So I'm familiar with the overall sort of gross numbers, right? When you include everything, it's around $45 million with all the capital improvements on an annual basis. Sort of the city non-capital budget is smaller than that. I think about 26 in that range. And the majority of what we spend on, depending on how you break down certain staff expenses, are on city staff. Obviously, we just had the vote on the new police budget. For the next couple of years, we just had the vote on the new public works union and that budget. But Laurel is an old city, right? And the capital improvements that are going to be needed are expensive. Right? If you just look in Ward 1 and the Old Town portion, those pipes, those conduits, those sewer lines are 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. I don't know how old they are, but the investment in them is going to be quite expensive and is the work of a generation, like it was the work of a generation to build them in the first place. So it's the primary work of a city to sustain itself over time. Right? A city is not like a business where you're trying to turn a profit for your shareholders. This year, you're trying to build a sustainable enterprise that can serve the people now and serve them for a long time. And our decisions in the budget should reflect that and not be about just answering the need of right now while sacrificing the future.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wallace, do you think our local economy is healthy and successful, and what would you do to change it?
We're just going to give me that power, like right now? Wow. This is a very good seat, I guess. I think so. I think what would be the signs that would tell you? You'd say lots of empty storefronts. I don't think so. You'd say lots of businesses changing over time. That's a vibrant thing. Like small businesses should grow out of their space on a regular basis and be replaced by other businesses. That seems to happen on a pretty regular basis. We had, sort of the old mall that got replaced with something that seems to be thriving well. We have a wide variety where we are not dependent on one industry, right? I grew up in upstate New York, which over time, that town was dependent on Endicott Johnson Shoes, which is a name that means a lot to me, but probably not to anybody else here. And then IBM after that. And those jobs all moved, and it was absolutely devastating to the town I grew up in because, a quarter of the people in the town worked in those industries over time. So I think we're healthy. We're in an area that grows, that has grown. The sign of the housing market, it has difficult effects on affordable housing, but the sign of how many people want to live here and the way that housing prices go up as a reflection of what people are willing to pay to be here is a pretty healthy sign. So what would I want to do to fix it would be there's a lot of spaces that seem to be businesses sort of in the wrong place, and I'm not going to move them, but can we get more walking traffic on Main Street, for example? Can we encourage businesses that don't want to use their storefronts for walking business
Thank
to
you,
use
Mr.
them
Wallace.
for that?
Thank you. As representatives of the City of Laurel, what strategy would you use to serve the entire City of Laurel, even though you may be appointed to represent Ward 1?
Yeah, and that's a good question. The Ward 1 is has its own concerns, but Laurel as a city is what, 5 square miles. It is it's a compact place, and decisions you make for Ward 1, whether you're spending money or doing parkland or whatever, are going to affect Ward 2. We go to things in Ward 2. People from Ward 2 come to McCullough or go to the riverfront or go to Main Street. Our decisions should be made on a citywide basis. I think my knowledge is best in Ward 1 at this point, and going to more city events in Ward 2, hopefully with the introduction of fellow council members who are trying to help everybody succeed. I would definitely be open to that. Ride-alongs with the police, right, to see sort of the other side of things, I think would be helpful in making sure those are on a citywide basis and are not just focused on kind of the neighborhoods that I know already. Would be a good way to do that. My nature and the way that I work with teams and the way that I've largely lived my life is one that has focused on common good and common solutions. I am generally against trying to favor one group over another, especially at the expense of another. So making sure to spend enough time seeing people in Ward 2, I think, is probably the thing I'd have to change the most about my current habits. But I think the way I make decisions would probably be good as it is.
Thank you.
How do you plan to work with other council members? I'm going to pause there for a minute. And city staff to achieve your vision for the city.
Should I have different answers for the two groups of people? A city council member on his or her own, I don't think has any particular authority, right? You know, I guess we get a cool key card or something, probably. There's a handshake, I imagine. But you do your work as a group. So being a good communicator, being generous, trying to take people's arguments on the best argument, right? It's hard. I've sat up here, you know, for the Board of Appeals. I have sat there for the forum, obviously not as a council member. But it's hard to always assemble your very best argument, and it takes when you're on a team, you take people, you know, in good faith that they're trying to do their best, take their best argument, not their worst ones. You're trying to make a good decision for the whole city, not, you know, beat that guy at whatever's going on. That's just not my way, okay, unless we're playing basketball. So that's a different game. For the city staff, part of the job of a lawyer is to learn lots of different kinds of knowledge. When I was a commercial litigator, I did, you know, patent cases. I did cases for AT&T on communications technology, lots of different things that I knew little to nothing about before. And it teaches you to ask open-ended questions and learn before you start thinking you know what you're talking about. So for lots of areas of the city, there's just going to be a lot of open-ended questions to staff to say, hey, what's going on? What are your problems? How do we make them better? What are you focusing on? What's getting in the way of getting the mission done, of serving these people the best?
Okay, lastly, is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your candidacy for the city council vacancy?
Obviously, you guys got to choose the questions, so I'm assuming you picked the things that were important to you already. What else do I think is important? The most important things in my life are not going to change. based on what you guys decide tonight. Right? And I hope you see that as a good thing. My commitment to God, my commitment to my family, to the organizations I'm already a part of, to the city, does not depend on the result of tonight's vote. Right? And I don't think that's why any of you are up there. So I hope that that we have that in common. I think for all of us, we had enough experience with each other in, a cordial but tense relationship last fall. We're in the forums or out campaigning or whatever, where you saw what I'm like. So I would say that you can trust the experience that you all had with me, that if you decide that I'm going to be the council member for Ward 1, as your colleague, I'm going to be the same as I was. And maybe that will make you decide that that's not what you want. So that would work too. The information you got was good, I guess is my point. I try to be a pretty open book on the things that are important to me. I will be respectful and prepared for my work. I think you can count on that. Beyond that, I think you know enough.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Sure.
There are no further questions for you this evening. You can return our clerk can return your electronics. You're welcome to wait in the audience, or you can step out in the lobby.
Oh, was that our closing statement?
That was
I thought there
the,
was going to be another one. That was the closing statement. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
I thought that was it. Does the council want to allow a final closing statement?
I would like it.
All right, we'll go ahead and we'll do a 2-minute final closing statement if you would like.
Do 1 minute. We'll compromise on a minute, or I'll just stop after 1. So you guys obviously have a hard job. This was unexpected, and as President Cole said, has only happened 3 or 4 times in 30 years. So I appreciate the position that you guys are in and the way that you are going about your business. I think it's a good process. So thank you for doing this. With that being said, I think the most important piece of information that I would use if I was in your position is who has received votes from the people in Ward 1. Ultimately, that's who this person is going to recommend, is going to be representing. I was grateful to receive, several hundred votes, obviously not enough to be sitting in that seat already. But myself and Adrian have both run races, have been in front of the people already, and have received at least some of their confidence. And to me, that's the most important piece of information that you guys can have. I would be honored to serve next to you all. If not, I appreciate your time and the service that you guys all do to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. If you'll head over to Ms. Green. As a reminder for those in attendance that may have come in late, each candidate is being asked the same questions in the same order. The candidates were selected by random order by draw of names. The public is welcome to observe, but there will be no public participation this evening. If you could please make sure your cell phones are on silent, that will help this process go easier for each of the candidates. Thank you. Our next candidate for this evening by random draw is Miss Maria Gonzalez Jackson. Good evening, Ms. Gonzalez-Jackson. When you're ready, please let us know, and we'll start the questions.
I think I'm ready. Don't need a booster seat. Yes.
As a reminder, you'll have 2 minutes on the clock. You'll be able to see that. If you cannot see it, please let me know.
Good evening, Ms. Gonzalez-Jackson.
Good evening.
Why have you applied for the Ward 1 position?
Thank you for the question. Yes, I've applied for the Ward 1 position because I feel at this time I'm best equipped to enhance the skills of those of you who are sitting there at the dais. Councilmember Clark, Councilmember Cole, Councilmember Mills, and Councilmember Johnson. I've lived in Laurel for 20 years and have been active since day one. The first week that I moved here in Laurel, I became a volunteer at the Laurel Pregnancy Center. I've served as PTO president for Scotchtown Elementary School, as well as treasurer. I've had the honor of serving on the Laurel Education Advisory Committee as vice chair and chair, and also sit at the Youth Service Commission as well. Throughout my time here in Laurel, I've become very engaged in different activities, committees, and organizations, and feel that I have the skills to enhance what you all bring to the table to make Laurel a prosperous city for all citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please tell us a little bit more about your personal and professional background and any relevant experience that you would bring to the City Council?
Yes, as far as education, I have my bachelor's in psychology from the Bowling Green State University. I have my master's degree in social work, master's degree in public administration, and a master's degree in gerontology from Marywood University. As my father joked, I should have become my own HMO, but did not follow that direction. But with that background, I have served in nonprofit executive management, serving in different national nonprofit organizations focused on aging, juvenile justice, and also have served directly in direct service as a social worker in long-term care, nursing home, adult daycare centers, and also those patients with dementia. With regards to what I bring to City Council, I have extensive experience in grants management, contract management, and I also bring experience in serving people of different backgrounds and diverse needs. And I believe that is a strength that I bring to the council that will enhance all the skills that you all bring currently to the City of Laurel. Thank you.
For your next question, what are your top 3 priorities for the city during your term, and how do you plan to address those priorities?
Thank you for the question. I believe the top 3 issues facing the city is affordable housing. The second, I believe, is addressing youth needs. I will say juvenile justice. I won't focus necessarily on crime, but within that, looking at that issue secondarily. And I believe the third issue is the growth of small businesses within the City of Laurel, in particular Main Street. So with regards to addressing those issues, I'll take the second one that I mentioned with regards to youth. I believe during my time serving as vice chair and chair with the Laurel Education Advisory Committee, it's important to work with the schools, but also community organizations. Our youth and the needs that they have are not siloed to just schools or just police. It's bringing together all of those organizations and all of their resources to address the needs of youth. And professionally and personally, I believe that I bring those skills to bring that forth. One of the things that I was able to do as PTO president at Scotchtown Hills Elementary was to address literacy, but also parent engagement. We had the first family reading night, which brought together political leaders. Former Mayor Moe was there. We also had state legislators, county legislators to attend that event. And we also brought in those who speak Spanish to address our growing Hispanic population here in Laurel. With regards to growing businesses, I think it's important to listen to the citizens of Laurel to see what businesses they would be attracted to support within the community. It's one thing for us to come in with ideas. It's more important, I believe, to listen to the constituents and citizens as well. With regards to affordable,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gonzalez Jackson, can you describe a situation where you had to work closely with a team to achieve a common goal? And how did you handle any conflicts or disagreements that arose?
Thank you for that question. So I have vast experience in dealing with teams and having disagreements. The most recent that I can think of in a professional setting was when our organization was going to have a new website. I was charged with developing that and was charged with searching for a firm to help us with that endeavor. Our board of directors, our executive director, and our staff put together a team to look at the most cost-effective website that we could build to meet our members' needs. During that time, there was a disagreement as far as the color and style of the website design, and I believe that we were getting lost in the weeds of that endeavor. And so I was able to bring back the discussion to who we were serving, and that was our members, and to make sure that the website and our energy was focused on what the members had requested and needed to do that. In having that discussion and refocusing the teammates to that mission and purpose, we were able to move through the color dynamics and focus on the portals and features that the members wanted. And I was able to bring forth a new website that met the members' needs within a 12-month period and under cost. Thank you.
Are there any legislative initiatives or code amendments that would be a priority for you if appointed to fill the vacancy?
Thank you. So I believe one area would be how the city is currently addressing the issue of unhoused members or those members within our community that are not able to secure affordable housing. I know that the city has put forth efforts to address that area. I believe with my background, both in nonprofit management as well as my professional volunteer efforts, I can bring forth ideas, again, looking at housing and those who are unhoused in a more holistic approach. More often than not, there's a reason why people are struggling with affordable housing, and that may often be due to low-income jobs or not having opportunity to have jobs that will be able to help them afford housing here in Laurel. I believe also that it's important to have wraparound services to address the needs. Childcare is often tied into those who cannot afford housing here in the city. And also working with landlords here. We know that there's a growing tendency for the landlords to raise the rates of rent in an astronomical way. And it's important for us as city council to address those needs as well, but more importantly, to look at the underlying issues of why our citizens are facing that difficulty with housing in the city. Thank you.
How familiar are you?
So with regards to the city budget, I have been watching the city council meetings that you do provide either live or in the recording. And like many cities, states are familiar with the shortfall that we are facing. And we know that much of it is due to the influx of funding that all cities, states received during COVID, and cities using those monies, but perhaps not looking ahead into how we could sustain that spending level after that funding has ceased to exist. And so that brings a challenge to the city And one of those, again, is making sure that we work in tandem with businesses that may be attracted to the City of Laurel, and also making sure that we have affordable housing. Without those two working in tandem, the revenue that we would need from citizens living here in the City of Laurel, as well as businesses to attract the people to stay here and live in Laurel, will not be accomplished. And so I think that's one area to look at. And again, in working in nonprofit management where pennies are very tight, and having managed budgets of nonprofit organizations, there's always room for cuts and reductions and ways to be more efficient. And that's something I believe I bring to the table. Thank you.
Do you think our local economy is healthy and successful, and what would you do to change it?
Thank you for the question. I do believe our local economy is healthy, is the word that I would use. I would say that in making it more healthy and more prosperous, again, it's important to support our small business and entrepreneurs in the city. We've seen a lot of those entrepreneurs who came forth and small business owners during COVID. And one of the barriers that I've heard from citizens is the cost of rent on Main Street. So I think that's something that, as if I should be appointed to the position, would be happy to work with all of you to look at ways that we can make Main Street more affordable to those who want to grow their business, have their business, and live here in Laurel to sustain those businesses. Thank you.
As representatives of the City of Laurel, what strategy would you use to serve the entire City of Laurel, even though you may be appointed to represent Ward 1?
Thank you for the question. So I believe that it is important to listen to all citizens. I think it's one thing to have people talk to citizens and share their ideas. I think it's more important to listen to the citizens and listen to a variety of citizens within the City of Laurel. It's very easy to talk to your circle of friends or your sphere of circle of influence, but it's more important to be uncomfortable and talk to people that you don't know or you know don't support you, to really bring forth a more diverse understanding of the citizens of Laurel. I think it's important, whether I'm serving Ward 1 or whether I would be an at-large member, to recognize that we all serve the City of Laurel, and that it is important to understand what citizens are looking for and giving thought to their ideas and suggestions. I think while I come with knowledge and experience, I don't always have the solution, and maybe the person sitting at Ragamuffin's coffee shop has the solution to one of the problems we're trying to address. I think it's very important to be open, to listen, and to make citizens feel empowered to bring their ideas and suggestions to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
One moment, just taking a few notes.
Yep.
How do you plan to work with other council members and city staff to achieve your vision for the city?
Thank you for the question. So first of all, I think it is important to spend time, as I shared with the citizens, spend time with each of you individually and collectively to better understand your goals and visions for the city, to see what you've set forth already as far as addressing the needs of the City of Laurel, as well as addressing the concerns that citizens have brought forth to you. I think it's important to have that understanding before going forth, quote unquote, and doing the work. I think it's very important to understand where each of you come individually and where we come together as City Council. As far as working together, I think it's important to have candid discussions and recognize where there are points of disagreement. It doesn't mean that we dislike the person. It's just an opportunity to learn the other person's perspective and to keep front and center our role here as city council members, which is to serve the citizens of Laurel. It's not to put forth our own agenda. It's to make sure that we are meeting the needs and serving the needs of each citizen here within the city of Laurel. Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your candidacy for the city council vacancy?
Thank you for the question. Yes. With regards to my desire to serve as a city council member for Ward 1, I think it's important to recognize that this is a pivotal moment in the city of Laurel. Looking at the current council members, we are lucky to have diverse representation that reflects the diversity of the city of Laurel. With that, I also think it's important to recognize the legacy of Laurel. We have a rich history here, and I am a proud member of a number of organizations here that have a rich history within Laurel. I'm a member of the Pythian Sister, Laurel Temple. I'm a member of the Women's Club of Laurel, which has a long-standing history here in Laurel. I'm also a member of Ladies First, which is a new group that has been formed here within the city of Laurel that celebrates and empowers women of color here in Laurel. And I think that's a beautiful representation of the time here that we have in Laurel to honor Laurel's legacy, but to also have an opportunity to lead forward the new Laurel that's growing before us, and to be a part of that and to help strengthen and prosper the city of Laurel and its citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we've finished our 10 council questions. You have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be considered for the city council member position for Ward 1. It's been a pleasure to be a citizen of the city of Laurel here for 20 years, where my husband and I have raised our 2 daughters, who are now 19 and 17. They attended Laurel public schools at Scotchtown Hills Elementary, and we had one daughter that attended Pilate High School. So I have experience, and we have experience with both a public and private school here. Longtime favorite members of the library. Our daughters attended the library story time from when they were born until they aged out at school. And that's one of the things that I love about the city of Laurel and would be honored to serve the city of Laurel, is that it brings together a very diverse and dynamic group of citizens while having that small town feel where our daughters say, you know, people will still remember you, Mom, when you were the Scotchtown PTA president. And I still have members coming up today saying, aren't you the lady from Scotchtown Hills? Aren't you the PTA president? And I think that speaks to the small town community feel that we have here. And I think that's something that's a rich history of legacy of the city of Laurel. And I would be honored to help keep that, unite that, empower our citizens, and to help the city of Laurel thrive. And so I do hope that you will take into consideration my experience, my love for this city, and my passion to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time this evening. You're welcome to collect your electronics from Miss Green. You can join everyone in the audience, or you're welcome to step outside and make any phone calls that you may need to. Our next candidate of the evening is going to be Miss Calandra Young. We'll take a few minutes as we bring her in. Ms. Green, have we heard where Ms. Young is? Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight, Ms. Young. As a reminder, you'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. Each question is being asked in the same order as the other candidates. When you are ready, please let us know, and we'll start with the first question with Mr. Mills.
You may begin.
Good evening, Ms. Young.
Good evening.
My first question is, why have you applied for the Ward 1 vacancy?
Thank you for asking a question, Councilman Mills. The reason why I have applied for the vacancy is because Laurel is my hometown. Laurel is a place that I care about deeply, and I believe in being the change that I wish to seek. So I took advantage of this opportunity because I've been a servant to this community for so long. So why not take the opportunity to actually serve as a representative?
Can you please tell us about your personal and professional background and any relevant experience that you would bring to the City Council?
Of course, thank you. My experience, my first job was actually here in this very building at 14 years old. I worked under our former mayor, Mayor Mo's summer job program for the police department and the records department. I then went on to work as a receptionist here in this building. So I transferred all the calls. I spoke to a lot of the same people that still work here in this building. I know how Laurel operates. I've been in the city. I've been everywhere in the city. I've worked everywhere in the city. I've done food drives. I've made connections with community partners. I serve for fun in Laurel, and that is my experience, as well as I am the executive vice president for the Prince George's County Young Democrats. I know as a representative here, we're nonpartisan, which would not be an issue for me. I also am a chair on the Prince George's County Democratic Central Committee, as well as being on the board for LARS here in Laurel. And I have worked in civic engagement. I've canvassed different neighborhoods in this city, in the county, in the state. And I've also lobbied on different bills for different initiatives across the county and state as well.
Thank you.
What are your top 3 priorities for the city during your term, and how do you plan to address those priorities?
My top 3 priorities would be first, mental health awareness and addiction prevention. Mental health awareness is something that means a lot to me, and we are in a crisis right now. And I would love to be able to provide those resources to all ages so that people can know more about mental health and the struggles that a lot of people are facing, especially in the Black and Brown communities. And I intend on, informing people about 988. A lot of people are not aware of what 988 is, but it actually gives us the option to be able to call 988 instead of calling 911 when we're having a mental health emergency. I spoke on addiction prevention. I was just walking down Main Street a couple of days ago. There was a gentleman that was having an overdose issue. I spoke with the gentleman. I gave him water. I spoke with him for a little bit just to see where his head was. He didn't really want much help, but he did enjoy the fact that somebody was there to talk to him and, while he was going through his coming down. And that's not something that I want to see in the city that I live in. I want to be the person that helps with those mental health crises. My second priority is economic development and job creation. Right now, I've spoke to a lot of business owners here in Laurel, and a lot of our businesses are struggling. They're struggling to have customers come into their businesses. They have made renovations, and people are not coming in. And I want to be able to market and put Laurel out there so that we can get more businesses attracted to moving here. My last one would be youth development and education, just making sure our schools have what they need to be successful.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
Ms. Young, can you describe a situation where you had to work closely with a team to achieve a common goal? And how did you handle any conflicts or disagreements that arose?
I just finished working on the U.S. Senate David Trone campaign. That was definitely something that I had never experienced before. I had to work with a team of people who I had just met. We had to come to a lot of agreements that a lot of people did not always agree on all the time. So that was a challenge. It was a challenge to get everybody on the same page when you're working with 20 people who all feel that they have the right answer to a solution. The way that I got through that is really just by showing people, by showing them that this is a solution. And by the time I left that campaign team, a lot of people did, they thanked me for my collaboration efforts and my heart for teamwork, because I'm all about working as a team, and we're going to always come to a common goal, no matter what we have to go through to get there.
Are there any legislative initiatives or code amendments that would be a priority for you to, if you were appointed for this vacancy?
Do you mind saying the question one last time?
Yes. Are there any legislative initiatives or code amendments that would be a priority for you if appointed to fill this position?
I feel that a legislative priority of mine would definitely be affordable housing. That is a major issue that we are currently having. We have homeless people living in tents in the woods. It's been going on for years. We have people laying on our sidewalks. And I have already testified on affordable housing bills for the state and for this county. And if I'm able to provide affordable housing options here in the city of Laurel, then I would love to do that. And that's what I intend to do with being on the board at Lars. You're welcome.
You still have 1 minute and 20 seconds. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
I would say another legislative initiative of mine that means a lot to me is Medicare for all, because that's also a big issue that we are having right now. A lot of people do not have the access to medical options. They don't have. There are people who are making a decision on, are they going to go to work today or are they going to go to the doctors? And I want to be able to advocate for that legislation on a local level so that we can get it at our state level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sixth question for the evening. How familiar are you with the current city budget and fiscal challenges we are facing?
I'll be honest, I would love to learn more information about the budget, and that is what I would intend to do being on the council, is really making sure that the budget is being approved in the interests of the community, and that's what I intend to do. And I would love to learn more information about our budget and the issues that we are facing here in Laurel.
Thank you.
Do you think our local economy is healthy and successful, and what would you do to change it?
I wouldn't say that it's unhealthy, but we could use some work. And I spoke on that when I was referring to the economic development and the job creation. I feel that my connections that I have been building with the different businesses that are here in Laurel could help us get to a healthy economy. And just, providing incentives for these different businesses to attract businesses to come to our city and to maintain the businesses that we currently already have. And really just, marketing what we have here in Laurel. We have a rooftop bar now. We have a hookah bar. We have our winery. We have so many great things that are here in Laurel. And if we utilize these things and we broadcast them and promote them and allow other cities to see what we have, we could have a healthier economy here in Laurel.
Thank you. As representatives of the City of Laurel, what strategy would you use to serve the entire City of Laurel, even though you may be appointed to represent Ward 1?
I'm glad you asked that question. I never want to own in on just my ward. If I'm serving the city. I will host town halls in my ward. I'll do surveys in my ward. I'll canvass in my ward. But I intend to I want the whole city to feel involved in our governance that we have, and as the city council, I want them to know what we're up to. I want them to be excited and to get engaged in the different policies and the different events that we have. And that's what I intend to do. I want to do that in Ward 1, Ward 2, all over the city. You're welcome.
Yeah. You want to take a second? Ready?
I'm good. Thank you.
How do you plan to work with other council members and city staff to achieve your vision for the city?
I intend to do just that. I intend to work along with everybody on the city council. I want to be on the council to get things done. I don't want us to have to bicker or complain about certain things. And if we do bicker or complain, I want us to still be able to do that and come to a common goal. I want us to be able to collaborate together. If Kyla is having a event in Ward 2, then I want us to be able to do an event together. We should be able to co-host that event and so forth with Christine, with Mills, with James. And that's the type of dynamic that I would want us to have together. I would want us to work as a team. I would want to work with our staff and make sure that they feel appreciated for all that they do here in the city.
Okay, is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your candidacy for the city council vacancy?
The only thing that I'll add is, the reason why I'm here today is because being a public servant is something that comes naturally to me. It's something that I enjoy doing. I'm not here for a title. I'm not here to be called Councilwoman Young. I'm here because if I want to serve my city, then this is the best capacity for me to do so if I want to make the impact that I want to make. I'm here also because it's in my heart to do what is best for the community that I live in. I want to be able to help the students at the Laurel Elementary School that I went to, students that are not even reading on the grade level that they should be reading on. I want to provide tutoring programs for them. I want to revitalize things like Laurel Boys and Girls Club so that kids have a safe space to go to, a place to go. My mom would take me to Laurel Boys and Girls Club. I played soccer there. I did POMs there. I want us to be a collaborative council and be able to allow Laurel to grow. This is no longer a small town Laurel. Laurel is growing and it's becoming something big. Many people rely on this city. We're in the middle of everything. And if I can help the city of Laurel thrive, then I would love to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Young. We will give you 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. Like I said, I want to serve because this is my hometown. I was born and raised here. I was born at Laurel Regional Hospital, went to Laurel Elementary School. I went to Laurel High School. I even took some classes at Laurel College Center. So I am Laurel. I am a product of this city, and I deserve to have a seat at the table. And that is the reason why I want to serve. I would like to be a vessel of this community and a voice for the voiceless. I know what it's like to not have a voice or to feel like you're not seen or heard. And I want to let people know that they are being heard by the people that are representing them. I want them to know that people care about the challenges that they are facing in this city. And it just, this is just something that comes naturally for me to do. And I would love to be in the position to be able to help my community thrive and be a better place.
Thank you, Ms. Young. You can step over to see Ms. Green for your electronics.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay here in the chamber and continue watching the final interview, or you may go out, use the facilities, whatever you need to do.
Thank you.
Ms. Green, we are ready for Mr. Simmons, please. Welcome, Mr. Simmons. Go ahead and have a seat. Get comfortable. As a reminder, you will have 2 minutes to answer each question. You do not need to use all 2 minutes. Each candidate's being asked the same questions in the same order. Whenever you're ready, please let us know, and we'll start with Mr. Mills for his questions. But go ahead and get situated and then let us know.
Gotcha. I think I'm good to go. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Simmons. Why have you applied for the Ward 1 vacancy?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I first ran for office last fall, and part of my motivation for that was to really be part of the city that I grew up in and to help create an environment and a community for us to be a part of. I reflected back on my time, as a kid in the city, and you don't realize it, but people have to step forward to help create those things that happen, whether it's the sports fields we play on, whether it's the services we have. And so at this stage in my life, I've got young kids now too, and part of that reflection, even through COVID, was to say, maybe I can be a help as well. So that's why I am applying for office.
Thank you. Can you please tell us about your personal and professional background and any relevant experience that you would bring to the city council?
Sure. Yeah, so personally, as I alluded to, I sort of grew up in the city and sort of have seen it go through its ebbs and flows over the years. I feel like it provides a little bit of perspective, unique to say what's worked or what's have been some of the momentum that the city has had and where things that we can improve on. Professionally, I've worked in Laurel for the last 22 years. As a CPA, first in South Laurel, and since 2008 on Main Street as a CPA, serving the residents and small businesses in the area. And that also has given me some insight into the people of Laurel, the issues, sort of sharing a people's story, being able to have those conversations, whether it's in the advice and planning meetings we have, whether it's annually tax preparation meetings we have, and things like that. I feel like I bring that to the council. Part of that professional experience as well has given me a skill set around finances. So comfort with budgets, comfort with making financial decisions, comfort with financial terminology, which is an important part of the work of the council. And with that as well is parsing regulations, which is something that, I spent a lot of time doing. So whether it's dissecting federal laws when there's changes like there were over COVID, whether that's interfacing with state laws. I've been down to Annapolis a number of times, sort of advocating on behalf of small businesses. So that apparatus down there is familiar to me, as well as connecting with city and council level. So professionally as well, that's something that I feel is a relevant and helpful experience to service on the council.
Thank you. Can you please tell us what your top 3 priorities for the city during your term would be, and how do you plan to address those priorities?
Yeah, there's a couple different things, probably some big picture, some small picture that sort of come to mind when I think about priorities. One, in my mind, I anticipate the next 10 years will be a period of change for Laurel. Some of those things around the Laurel Park, as we know, are changing, and development that's going to go in there, even though it's technically outside the city limits, certainly around Conterra. And the city itself, I feel like, is going through a redevelopment phase as well. So for me, one of the perspectives I would like to be able to bring to the council for the city is to be able to, let's do that in a way that's smart, that continues to create a positive economic environment that attracts residents and businesses here, but also do it in a way that preserves the sense of community and connectedness that I think is unique and part of what makes Laurel special. So that's more of a big picture one. Sort of on the smaller side, Laurel's got a long history. One of the neat things I think has going for it. Sometimes the other side of that is that our rules and regulations have been around for a while too, and a little refresh and a little bit of sprucing up, I think, could be done. So that would be something I think in my mind to say, hey, where can we go back and simplify, streamline, make sure that different things that have been added over time harmonize with each other. Because I think the clearer we make it for everybody, the much easier it is, and also can avoid confusion. So that's a third one. If I go back to a big picture one, something I've mentioned before too, this is more of a long-term idea, but I think having a sort of a walking, biking trail that's protected between Laurel Lakes and Riverfront Park would be a really neat jewel that the city could have, both to promote health and well-being, to promote small businesses on Main Street, and of course near the Laurel Lakes area, and just be just a neat asset that could be part of the city's portfolio to attract people and create a good environment for us all. You're welcome.
Mr. Simmons, can you describe a situation where you had to work closely with a team to achieve a common goal, and how did you handle any conflicts or disagreements that arose?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, over the years, I have served on different committees and foundations. One of them was the Maryland Society of Accountants Scholarship Foundation I was on for 10 years. Also served on different finance committees and the Finance Advisory Council for my parish. So one thing I've always found important in situations like that is, one, everybody gets a chance to share their ideas. Sometimes that means eliciting the ideas of somebody who maybe is being a little quieter, so they bring it out. Two, everybody's ideas need to be respected. It's important that each person know that they're not being discounted. And three is trying to create as much of a win-win situation as possible to say, hey, how can we achieve the goals that we want to, and sort of put different ideas together to sort of achieve that common purpose. So there's some of the situations and some of the lessons learned from over the years.
Mr. Simmons, are there any legislative initiatives or code amendments that would be a priority for you if appointed to fill the vacancy?
Yeah, a couple come to mind. One of them is just a small one that I think is funny, which is most residents may not be aware if they want to hold a yard sale, technically they have to come down to City Hall and fill out a form and pay $10. So I think there's something that could be done. Some of my ideas are around just making life a little simpler for residents. Another one that comes to mind is, having gone through the election last fall, some of the election rules I think could be streamlined. I think it's something the city may already be working on, so I'd like to be able to contribute to seeing that happen. Also talking to some of the small businesses, around the city, there's various grants and applications and sort of funds available, but sometimes it's complicated or difficult for them to make sense of the process and the steps involved in the process. So that might also be an opportunity to say, hey, how can we make this simpler so that we're being able to help more easily the folks that it's intended to help?
Thank you.
How familiar are you with the current city budget and fiscal challenges we are facing?
I believe I have a degree of a familiarity. Obviously, I'm not privy to some of the smaller nuances and details. I know we have a $43 million budget that was just approved recently. I know the bulk of that goes to personnel costs, as you might imagine, for a service-oriented organization. I know there's some questions evolving around sort of retirement planning for both the city employees, and for the police officers. I know, the mayor obviously proposes the budget. It gets approved by the council. So I've sort of read and flipped through the budget, many pages. As an accountant, I probably, if in the position, would look to try to say, hey, can I have a spreadsheet? And maybe I can even break it down further. But
Do you think our local economy is healthy and successful? And what would you do to change it?
yeah, that's a great question. Personally, and having observed through the businesses that I advise and work with, I think we're experiencing a long tail coming out of COVID. I was just reading a couple months ago one of the accounting softwares that I use with small businesses, their small business report that said year over year, small business sales are down 3.2%. A lot of big businesses have bounced back from some of the COVID things, but the small business world has not. And I've seen that. Sadly, I've helped probably at least 10 businesses close in the past 2 or 3 years. So I feel there's an opportunity for businesses to reimagine the business model. I feel like there's new space. I do see some bright opportunities and signs for those who are creative, willing to sort of think through and have some assistance to think through. But I would say we're not out of the woods yet. And each one of those steps we can to creatively help those people to create the economy, I think makes a difference. Inflation, we've all felt pretty tightly too. So I think there's some road to go.
As representatives of the City of Laurel, what strategy would you use to serve the entire City of Laurel, even though you may be appointed to represent Ward 1?
Yeah, I mean, as a member of Ward 1, it's important to hear those constituents, but I think as a member of the council and as representing the city as a whole, it's important to think overall, big picture, what is good for Laurel and what is good for Laurel long term. I see that as one of the roles of the council members to be able to think long term and to say, okay, in the long run, what do we put in place that's going to really help the city overall? Because the truth is, what helps Ward 2 helps Ward 1, and what helps Ward 1 helps Ward 2.
How do you plan to work with other council members and city staff to achieve your vision for the city?
Yeah, great question. To me, one of the important characteristics or traits would be the collegiality of working with other members of the council. I think the city is served best when the council members know each other, when they are comfortable with each other, when they can communicate well with each other and collaborate with each other. Now, it's not to say that everybody's always going to agree. And in many ways, the city is served by everybody not always agreeing and having a difference of opinion, because that helps sharpen, hopefully, what the end result is at the end of the day. But having that ability to connect on that level, to be able to say, okay, hey, let's talk through, let's think through, what are you thinking? What do we think best serves Laurel? I think is absolutely critical. So, and taking the time to be able to do that, because it is a commitment of time as well.
Hey, lastly, is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your candidacy for the city council vacancy?
Yeah, thank you. Something I guess I haven't mentioned is also just ways I've volunteered in the city over the time. So whether that's been providing some advice to nonprofits who need some help in the city of Laurel, whether that's right now I'm serving as Cub Master for a PAC located here in Laurel. I've served on sort of T-ball and done various things over the course of the year. So to me, that's also part of it. And as a council member, I would also want to promote that in the city at large. I really feel that what we do here is important, but what the residents do is really what makes the city of Laurel. Laurel happens out there. And so I would want to encourage and promote that as well among our fellow residents.
Thank you. We will now give you 2 minutes to make a closing statement.
Thanks. So just a couple sort of closing thoughts I put together here. For me, I've lived in Laurel my whole life, 45 years. As I mentioned, worked in Laurel for 22 years. Various involvements at different organizations over different parts of my life. But my wife and I have chosen to raise our kids here. So own a small business here on Main Street. So for me, I think Laurel's special. And, I'm invested deeply in Laurel and in Laurel's future. And I want to see us grow and flourish as a strong community for many years to come. When I think about, what makes for a good council member, the things that come to my mind is somebody who exercises good financial stewardship of the monies that have been entrusted to us from the residents. Somebody who can think big picture and long term to cultivate a regulation foundation on which the citizens and residents of Laurel can build Laurel. Somebody who seeks to promote unity and collaboration for the benefit of Laurel. And somebody can be that personal connection to the residents who can truly care about the people, help them to get the answers they need, help them to have their voices heard. So I believe my decades of experience at this point, which is weird to say at 45, but as a CPA provides some of that unique background to be able to make sense of some of the complex budget and financial decisions that the council has to make sense of. My experiences as a business coach and an advisor have taught me to ask the right questions, to think big picture and help people plan into the future. My experience just working on committees and in leading organizations in for-profit and not-for-profit world, equipping with skills to be able to work together towards a common goal. And
thank you, Mr. Simmons. Go ahead over and collect your electronics from the screen.
Okay.
This concludes the interview portion of this evening's meeting. Does the council need a recess, or are you good to continue on? Motion to recess? All right. We will take a 10-minute recess and come back to the chamber at 7:35. It is now 7:35. I'll call the meeting back to order. I want to thank all of the candidates that have come out tonight and participated in this process. We want to make sure this was fair and open to everyone. As I said at the opening, we are using the same policy tonight that has been used in July of 1991, November of 2001, and June of 2011. I will now open the floor for elections to the city council vacancy. We will be using the same rules as the election for the president. I will entertain a motion to fill the vacancy.
Mr. President, I'd like to motion Calandra Young.
We have a motion and a second, or we have a motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Hearing none, the motion fails. I will still entertain a motion for the vacancy on the city council.
Mr. President, I move that the council appoint Adrian Simmons to fill the vacant Ward 1 council seat.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, I have a motion and a second for Mr. Simmons. Will you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Johnson,
Yes.
Councilman Mills. President Cole.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Congratulations, Mr. Simmons. Thank you again to all the other candidates. We will be doing the oath of office administered by the mayor at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, July 3rd, in the city council chambers, followed by an in-person work session scheduled for 6 p.m. that day. With no further business before the city council, this meeting is adjourned.